Have you ever cried so hard in prayer that you wondered if heaven even heard you? Those nights when your pillow caught the tears no one else saw. When you whispered, "God, if you're real, please give me a sign." And yet all you got in return was silence. You kept believing. You kept waiting. You kept showing up, even when your heart was breaking. People left, doors closed, and nothing made sense. But deep down, something told you not to quit. You didn't realize it then, but every tear, every lonely night, every unanswered prayer was building the foundation for what's about to come. Because now, the silence is breaking. The atmosphere is shifting. And heaven is speaking your name. Chosen one, this is the moment the spiritual locks start to turn. This is the season where God begins to release what you've been praying for. Not next year. Not someday. But now. Heaven has remembered your name. The doors that stayed closed are trembling. The chains that held you are weakening. God is saying, "You've passed the test. You stayed faithful. You didn't give up, and now, I'm releasing what's yours." So get ready. Because the same prayers you once cried over are about to become your testimony. This isn't just another message. This is your confirmation. There are seasons when your prayers feel like they're bouncing off the ceiling. You speak, but heaven feels quiet. You pour your heart out, but nothing seems to move. And you start to wonder, "God, did you forget me?" You replay every decision, every prayer, trying to find what went wrong. You say, "Lord, I'm doing everything I know how to do. I'm praying. I'm believing. I'm trying to keep my faith strong. So why does it feel like you're not listening?" But chosen one, what you didn't know is that heaven often goes silent right before divine release. Because silence isn't rejection, it's preparation. When God hides His voice, it's not to punish you, it's to strengthen your hearing. He trains you to recognize His whisper, not just His miracles. There were moments you felt invisible, but God was watching you the entire time. Every tear was counted. Every sigh was recorded. Every prayer, even the ones you couldn't finish, reached His throne. The enemy tried to use that silence to convince you that God had abandoned you. But in truth, that silence was God's way of building your spiritual muscle. He was stretching your endurance. He was maturing your faith from emotional to eternal. Because anyone can praise when blessings are visible. But only the truly chosen can worship when heaven is quiet. And that's what you did. You kept showing up. You kept praying, even when you didn't feel powerful. You kept believing, even when you didn't see results. That's what makes you rare. You didn't walk away when it hurt. You didn't curse God when things went wrong. You said, "Even if He slays me, yet will I trust Him." You didn't realize it, but those words shook the spirit realm. Because what you call waiting, heaven calls training. While you were begging for answers, God was crafting something much bigger. He was teaching you spiritual patience, the kind that can't be faked. Patience that doesn't just wait for results but trusts His process. Think about it. The seed doesn't question the soil. It doesn't complain about being buried in darkness. It simply trusts that in time, the same darkness that covered it will grow it. You, chosen one, were that seed. Buried. Hidden. Pressed by the weight of unanswered prayers. But even when you couldn't see it, you were growing roots. You were developing unseen strength. Your faith became thicker than your fear. Your prayers became deeper than your pain. And your dependence on God became stronger than your desire for results. Yes, there were days you wanted to quit. Days you thought, "Maybe I heard God wrong." Days you felt like the promises were lies. But even in your doubt, God's love didn't waver. He wasn't silent because He didn't care. He was silent because He was working. Behind the scenes, He was rearranging your life in divine order. He was removing distractions, pruning relationships, exposing motives, and refining your spirit. You thought the waiting season was stillness, but it was spiritual construction. He was rebuilding your foundation so that when the blessing comes, it doesn't collapse under pressure. See, when God is about to elevate someone, He first isolates them. He separates them from noise, from validation, from old environments. because He wants their ears tuned only to His frequency. You prayed for clarity, and He gave you isolation. You asked for power, and He gave you pressure. You asked for peace, and He removed people. It didn't feel like love, but it was the most loving thing God could have done. He didn't abandon you. He was preparing you to handle the weight of answered prayer. You see, blessings aren't light. They come with responsibility, visibility, and accountability. So before He could release what you asked for, He had to make sure your character could carry it. That's why He said, "Wait." That's why doors didn't open right away. That's why people who were never meant for your destiny walked out. He was protecting the promise. He was protecting you. Because sometimes, early access leads to early destruction. And God loved you too much to give you something that would break you before you were ready to hold it. So He let you sit in silence. Not because He forgot you, but because He was forming you. He was transforming pain into power, rejection into redirection, loneliness into sacred focus. And now, that same silence that once hurt you has become your strength. You've learned how to move without noise, how to trust without evidence, and how to stand when everything shakes. You've learned that your connection to God doesn't depend on how loud He speaks, but on how deeply you trust His presence. That's why you're different now. The version of you that entered the waiting season is not the same one that's coming out. You entered broken, but you're coming out built. You entered fearful, but you're coming out faithful. You entered praying for a sign, but now you are the sign, living proof that God answers in His time. And as you step out of the silent years, heaven is whispering, "Now, my child, it's time. You've waited long enough. You've grown enough. You've trusted enough. Now watch me release what you've been praying for." When it seems like nothing's happening, that's when heaven is most active. God doesn't always announce what He's doing. He hides miracles inside ordinary days. He orchestrates divine alignments in secret, away from the enemy's eyes. While you've been trying to survive, He's been setting up divine connections behind the scenes. While you've been asking, "When?" He's been saying, "Now watch how I do it." The silence was divine strategy. The stillness was camouflage, protection from what could have destroyed your promise prematurely. Remember Joseph? God gave him a dream, but then sent him through betrayal, slavery, and prison, because the throne wasn't ready for him yet. And you, chosen one, are walking a similar pattern. You've been hidden, misunderstood, overlooked. But this hiding wasn't a curse, it was a sacred cocoon. And now the cocoon is cracking. Heaven is peeling back the veil. Everything that was delayed is being recalibrated for your release. You're about to see why God took His time. Because when God finally reveals what He's been doing, it will all make sense. You almost gave up. There were nights you felt like, "What's the point anymore?" But the pain you felt wasn't a sign of failure, it was the birth contractions of manifestation. Before something divine is born, there's always pressure. Before a miracle emerges, there's always warfare. The enemy attacked you the hardest right before your release because even he sensed that heaven had scheduled your breakthrough. You weren't breaking down, you were breaking through. That last heartbreak? It was clearing space. That rejection? It redirected you. That delay? It developed you. The pain had purpose. Every wound birthed wisdom. Every betrayal turned into spiritual muscle. You may not have realized it then, but every loss was secretly building your power. You were shedding old versions of yourself that couldn't enter the next chapter. Because the promise that's coming requires a stronger, wiser, and more spiritually grounded version of you. And now, after the pain, heaven is whispering, "It's time." Chosen one, hear this clearly. The release has already started. What you've been praying for, the healing, the opportunity, the divine connection, the financial shift, the clarity, heaven has already authorized it. You're about to walk into rooms you didn't apply for. You're about to receive calls you didn't expect. People who once ignored you will suddenly remember your name. The doors that refused to budge for years will swing open effortlessly. Not because of who you are in the world, but because of who you are in the Spirit. God has seen your consistency in secret. He's watched you worship through storms, love through betrayal, and believe through pain. You passed the test, and now heaven is releasing your reward. But here's the sacred truth: the release won't always look how you imagined. It may come as new direction, a divine idea, or an unexpected shift. Don't resist the change. It's your answer disguised as movement. What you prayed for is being packaged differently, but it's exactly what your soul needs. This release will restore everything you thought you lost, and multiply it. You can't enter your next season with the same mindset that survived your last one. What's coming requires deeper faith, sharper discernment, and quieter confidence. This is not the time to explain your anointing or prove your worth. It's time to walk in divine authority. God is calling you to level up mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. He's not just releasing blessings, He's releasing responsibility. Because what He's giving you now will bless others too. You've been trusted with influence, not for validation, but for divine impact. So prepare your environment. Clean your spiritual house. Forgive who you need to forgive. Release who you need to release. Make space, because your blessing needs room to land. Heaven doesn't pour into clutter. Your readiness is the key that unlocks the release. When you align your heart with heaven's timing, things begin to accelerate. Suddenly, everything makes sense. Every delay, every heartbreak, every lesson. You realize it wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Right now, as you listen, your name is echoing through the halls of heaven. Angels are moving. Energy is shifting. The divine clock has struck the hour of your release. Chosen one, what's about to happen will feel surreal. The same people who doubted you will witness your elevation. The same places that rejected you will now request your presence. But remember, this is not about revenge, it's about revelation. God is revealing His glory through your story. You didn't just survive, you were refined. You didn't just wait, you were being prepared to carry something holy. So stand tall. Lift your head. Because what's been held back is now being poured out. This is your confirmation. God is releasing what you've been praying for. Your season of delay is over. Your divine release is here. And your name has been called in heaven's court. Now it's your time to walk boldly into it. Chosen one, if this message found your heart today, it wasn't an accident. God led you here because you were about to give up, but this was His way of saying, hold on. You're next. You've waited long enough. Now it's time to prepare for overflow. Start thanking God in advance. Start aligning your habits, your thoughts, and your space with what you've been asking for. Because gratitude is the language that unlocks heaven's gates. Your prayers have been heard. Your faith has been seen. And your release has already begun. So get ready. The blessing is on its way. And this time, you won't have to chase it. It will find you. You are the chosen one, and heaven is calling your name.